Logan stood quietly near the glass wall, a small cardboard box in his hands, as three sharply dressed men walked past him into the conference room. They didn't even look at him, but he watched them closely. Not with anger, not even regret, but with something heavier. Because every skill they carried, every system they were hired to manage, every solution they believed they understood, he had taught them all of it. And now, they were replacing him. The CEO had just approved contracts worth over $200,000 a year for each of them to replace a man she had fired for $80,000, a man she never truly understood. Before we continue, if you love powerful emotional stories like this, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and comment, "Stay strong," to support the channel. Because what happens next, no one in that building was ready for. That morning had started like every other. Logan woke up at 5:30, not because he had to, but because life had trained him to. In his small kitchen, he packed a simple lunch, a sandwich, an apple, and a small chocolate bar, because his 6-year-old daughter Emma always smiled when she found it. She walked in rubbing her eyes, holding her stuffed rabbit, and asked softly, "Daddy, are you working today?" Logan smiled gently and said, "Yeah, just like always." She nodded, trusting him completely. That trust was the one thing in his life he couldn't afford to lose. Logan worked at Helix Core Systems, a billion-dollar infrastructure company that powered banks, logistics, and emergency networks across multiple states. If their system ever failed, entire cities would feel it. But no one thought about it until something went wrong. Officially, Logan was just a maintenance technician, but the truth was very different. 3 years earlier, he had built the core system from the ground up, every layer, every fail-safe, every hidden mechanism. The same 3 experts now replacing him were once his trainees. He had taught them everything. But after his wife passed away, Logan made a quiet decision, not for money or status, but for his daughter. He stepped down from his high-pressure role and chose a simpler position, disappearing inside the very system he had built. The new CEO, Victoria Hale, had only been in charge for 2 months. She was smart, efficient, and driven by numbers. She didn't see people, only performance charts, and Logan on paper looked replaceable. Slow, quiet, unremarkable. Exactly the kind of employee companies eliminate, so she did, without ever realizing what she had, just removed. Logan didn't argue when HR handed him the envelope. He didn't defend himself, didn't explain his past, didn't mention the risks. He simply took his box, held his daughter's hand, and walked out as if none of it mattered. 3 days later, the system began to fail. Small issues at first, latency spikes, data delays, nothing alarming. The new experts worked quickly, fixing what they could see, but they didn't understand what they couldn't see, because the most important parts of the system had never been documented. They existed only in Logan's mind. By the 5th day, everything collapsed. Emergency services slowed down. Banks froze transactions, and supply chains stalled. Millions of dollars were being lost every hour. Inside the server room, the experts stood in silence, facing screens filled with errors. For the first time, they had no answers. Victoria watched. As everything spiraled out of control, her numbers suddenly meaningless. "Fix it," she said. But no one moved because no one knew how. Then one of the experts, Carter, whispered, "There's only one person who can fix this." 30 minutes later, they found Logan not in an office but in a small grocery store, counting coins, trying. To decide what he could afford for dinner, Victoria called him personally, her voice controlled but different now. "We need you." There was silence. Then Logan replied calmly, "No, you need the system." And he hung up. An hour passed. Nothing improved. The system continued to collapse, and panic spread. Then suddenly, a deep, thunder-like sound filled the air. Motorcycles, dozens of them, pulled into the company parking lot. Men stepped off their bikes, calm, serious, unmistakable Hell's Angels. Everyone froze. Security didn't move. No one dared to. Then Logan stepped forward from among them, not as a fired employee, but as someone who clearly belonged there. Victoria's expression changed. For the first time, she wasn't in control. Logan walked straight toward her, calm and steady. "You fired the wrong man," he said. Behind him, the bikers stood silently, not aggressive, but protective. Logan continued, "These men are the only reason I survived after my wife died. They fed my daughter when I couldn't. They stood beside me when no one else did." Silence filled the space. "You replace me with experts," he said, "but forgot one thing." He looked toward the server building. "They learned from me, but they don't understand what I never wrote down." Victoria swallowed and asked, "What do you want?" Logan paused, then answered, "Nothing for me." He looked back at the failing system. "I'll fix it because people depend on it." And in that moment, everyone understood he wasn't doing it for the company, not for the CEO, not for money. He was doing it because that's who he was, a man who fixes what's broken, even when the world breaks him first. Sometimes, the most valuable person in the room is the one nobody thought was important.